Man, some games don't feel like levels. They feel like leaving home and coming back changed. These aren't games to rush through. They're journeys that stay with you. These are the PlayStation games that made you feel like you were living a true journey. You know, the first time I booted up Detroit, I thought I was just in for a slick sci-fi thriller, but man, it turned into this heavy, philosophical trek through the soul. You're following 3 different androids, but for me, Kara's story was the one that felt like a literal trek through the cold. Trying to get Alice to safety across the border isn't just a mission. The sensation of the freezing rain and the constant fear of being caught makes every step feel massive. The gameplay is all about those split-second choices. I remember a moment in a laundromat where I had to decide whether to steal or stay honest, and I actually felt my heart racing. It's not about high-speed action, it's about the impactful emotion of realizing that your code is actually becoming a conscience. Connor and Hank's relationship is another highlight. Watching that grumpy detective slowly start to trust a machine is such a slow burn win. Sometimes the metaphors get a bit heavy-handed, almost like the game is shouting at you, but the technical polish on the PS5 makes the characters' eyes look so real it's haunting. When I finally reached the end of their path, I just sat there looking at the flowchart of my choices. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was looking at my own phone and laptop a little differently, wondering where the line between tool and being really is. 2. Metro Exodus. Now, if we're talking about a real journey, Metro Exodus is the undisputed king. Leaving the dark, suffocating tunnels of the Moscow Metro for the surface on the Aurora train, man, what a memory. It's a cross-continental road trip through a post-nuclear Russia that feels so tactile. You're not just moving through levels, you're surviving seasons. From the frozen Volga to the blistering heat of the Caspian Desert, you feel the wear and tear on your gear. The gameplay is so immersive, it's almost stressful. Having to manually wipe mud off your gas mask or pump your pneumatic rifle while a mutant is breathing down your neck creates this incredible sensation of presence. I loved the quiet moments on the train between hubs, sitting there smoking a cigarette with your crew and listening to the radio. It made the impactful emotion of the final chapter in Novosibirsk hit like a freight train because these people had become my family. The voice acting can be a bit thick, if you know what I mean, but the atmosphere is so dense you could cut it with a knife. The road mattered more than the destination in this game, because every stop was a struggle to keep the Aurora moving. It's a gritty, beautiful, and deeply human story about finding a home in a world that's basically a graveyard. It ruined other map marker shooters for me. 3. Ghost of Tsushima. There's a specific sensation in Ghost of Tsushima that I've never found anywhere else. It's the peace of the guiding wind. Instead of a minimap, you just watch the grass sway and the petals fly. It makes the journey across the island of Tsushima feel so meditative. You play as Jin Sakai, and watching him slowly shed his samurai honor to become the ghost is a tragic, beautiful memory. You start the game as a noble warrior and end it as a shadow. The gameplay is razor sharp. The swordplay feels rhythmic, but it's the quiet exploration that stuck with me. Following a fox to a shrine or sitting down to compose a haiku while looking at a golden forest. Those moments give the game its impactful emotion. You aren't just clearing a map, you're reclaiming your home acre by acre. The final duel, without spoiling anything, is probably the most visually and emotionally stunning boss fight I've ever experienced. My only gripe is that the Mongol camps can get a bit repetitive after 30 hours, but the art direction is so legendary you barely care. You'll find yourself stopping every 5 minutes just to take a photo. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. As Jin gets further from his uncle's teachings, the world gets darker, but his purpose gets clearer. It's a love letter to samurai cinema that you absolutely have to live through. Number 4. The Last of Us Part 2. This game is an emotional marathon.
The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't care about making you feel good, it cares about making you feel everything. The journey from Jackson to the rain-soaked ruins of Seattle is brutal. The sensation of the overgrown concrete and the constant wet dread is something that stays in your bones. Playing as Ellie, fueled by pure, blinding rage, makes every mile feel heavy and every encounter feel like a scar. The gameplay is so visceral, it's almost uncomfortable. When you take someone out, their friends scream their name, and it creates this impactful emotion of guilt that most games shy away from. But the real journey starts when the perspective shifts. It forces you to walk back through the same streets from a different point of view, and it's a masterclass in empathy. The memory of that final exhausted fight on the beach is something I'll never forget. It's a controversial story, and yeah, it's a misery simulator at times, but the technical achievement is unmatched. The facial animations alone tell stories that the dialogue doesn't even need to touch. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was physically and mentally drained, questioning the whole concept of revenge. It's not fun in the traditional sense, but as a journey through the darkest parts of the human heart, it's perfect.
5. Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm just gonna say it. Arthur Morgan isn't just a character. He's someone I feel like I actually knew. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the ultimate slow journey. Rockstar doesn't want you to rush. They want you to feel the sensation of the cold mountain air in Coulter and the humidity of the Lemoyne swamps. The way you have to physically brush your horse and cook your meals by the fire creates this memory of a life lived, not just a game played. The gameplay is heavy and deliberate, which I know some people find sluggish, but for me, it's what makes the impactful emotion land. When Arthur's health starts to fail and the world begins to change around him, every ride across the plains feels precious. I found myself just walking my horse through the woods, watching the sunrise, and realizing that the road mattered more than the destination. The destination was always going to be tragic, but the talks with Dutch and the songs around the campfire were the real story. My only gripe is how rigid the missions can be. If you step an inch off the path, the game fails you. But the world is a masterpiece. It ruined other open worlds for me because they feel static compared to this. It's a 60-hour epic about the death of an era and a man trying to find a piece of himself before it's too late. It's a journey that leaves a permanent mark on your soul. Number 6, Shadow of the Colossus. This is a lonely journey, and that's what makes it so special. Shadow of the Colossus on PlayStation is pure poetry in motion. You play as Wander, riding your horse aggro through a vast, empty, forbidden land to save a girl named Mono. There are no towns, no NPCs, no side quests. It's just you, the wind, and these 16 massive stone gods. The sensation of scale when you look up at a colossus for the first time is something you never forget. The gameplay is a puzzle of physics and grip. Clinging to the fur of a flying beast while you're hundreds of feet in the air creates this incredible, impactful emotion of insignificance. But the journey here is moral. With every colossus you kill, Wander looks worse, paler, darker, more corrupted. This didn't feel like progress. It felt like distance. You're getting closer to your goal, but further away from the man you were. The camera can be a total nightmare sometimes, fighting you while you're trying to climb, but the atmosphere is so thick it doesn't even matter. It's a game about the cost of love and the weight of obsession. When you reach that final temple, the silence is deafening. It's one of the most artistic and haunting journeys ever put on a console. 7. God of War 2018. Watching the Ghost of Sparta try to be a dad is a journey I didn't know I needed. God of War changed the game by giving us a one-shot camera, no cuts, no loading screens, which makes the sensation of traveling from Kratos' house to the highest peak in the realms feel so intimate. You feel every step of their hike.
The memory of Kratos hesitating to put a hand on Atreus' shoulder is more powerful than any boss fight. The gameplay is brutal and satisfying. The Leviathan axe is a masterpiece of game design, but the impactful emotion comes from the growth. You start as two strangers on a road and end as a father and son. Exploring the Lake of Nine as the water level drops reveals new paths, making the world feel like it's growing with their relationship. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was looking at my own relationships differently. The boss variety in this first game was a bit lacking, too many trolls, but the writing and the performances by Christopher Judge and Sunny Suljic are top tier. It's a mature, grounded, and deeply personal epic that proves even the most violent monsters can change if they have someone worth changing for. It's a mandatory PlayStation journey. 8. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Most Uncharted games are high-speed roller coasters, but A Thief's End felt like a long, reflective road trip. It's Nathan Drake's final bow, and the sensation of the journey is much more grounded this time. From the rainy woods of Scotland to the stunning islands of Madagascar, the world feels massive and ancient. The memory of Nate and his brother Sam just driving the Jeep through the mud, talking about their childhood, is what makes this one special. The gameplay is the best in the series. The grappling hook adds so much verticality, but the impactful emotion is in the domestic moments. The scenes with Nate and Elena in their house, trying to live a normal life, make the eventual adventure feel so much more meaningful. You realize Nate isn't just hunting treasure, he's hunting for a part of himself he's afraid to lose. The road mattered more than the destination, because the Libertalia treasure was just a backdrop for a story about family and obsession. It's a bit longer than the previous games, and some of the climbing sections can drag, but the payoff is flawless. It's a beautiful, cinematic conclusion to one of gaming's most iconic characters. When the credits roll, you feel like you've just finished a long, exhausting, but ultimately rewarding vacation with your best friends. 9. Days Gone. I'm still convinced Days Gone is one of the most misunderstood journeys on PlayStation. You play as Deacon St. John, and your motorcycle isn't just a vehicle, it's your best friend and your only way home. The sensation of cruising through the high desert of Oregon, watching the fuel gauge drop while a storm rolls in, is pure immersion. You have to stop, scavenge, and repair, which makes the memory of every mile feel earned. The gameplay hits its peak when you encounter the Hordes. Seeing 500 freakers pouring over a ridge like a wave of death creates this impactful emotion of absolute panic. But the real road is Deacon's heart. He starts as this cynical, broken biker, and slowly starts to care about the world again. The road mattered more than the destination, because seeing Deacon and Boozer's brotherhood survive the apocalypse was way more important than finding some secret cure. The first few hours can be a bit slow, and the human AI isn't always the brightest. But once you upgrade that bike and start taking on the bigger threats, it's addictive. It's a gritty, rainy, and soulful road trip through the end of the world. It's about not giving up on the people you love, even when everything else is gone. 10. Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima basically invented a walking simulator that is actually a journey simulator. In Death Stranding, the terrain is the main boss. Playing as Sam Porter Bridges, you feel every rock, every river, and every mountain climb. The sensation of balance, literally using the triggers to steady your pack, makes the act of traveling feel real. The memory of cresting a massive hill and seeing a sprawling valley while a low roar track starts to play is a spiritual experience. The gameplay is all about connection. You build roads and bridges that other players can use, and finding a ladder left by a stranger when you're exhausted creates this incredible, impactful emotion of human solidarity. It's a lonely game, but you never feel truly alone. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. Every delivery Sam makes connects another piece of a broken America, but you feel the physical toll it takes on him.
I'll be honest, the story is peak Kojima weirdness. It's got babies in jars and ghosts made of tar, and it can be a lot to digest. But if you let yourself sink into the meditative pace, it's unlike anything else. It's a slow burn masterpiece about how we need to reach out to each other to survive. It's the ultimate PlayStation journey. 11. A Plague Tale Requiem. If you want a journey that will absolutely wreck you emotionally, this is it. A Plague Tale Requiem follows Amisha and her little brother Hugo as they trek across a stunning, rat-infested medieval France. The sensation of the world is gorgeous, but rotting. You feel the weight of the Protector title on Amisha's shoulders as she does more and more horrific things to keep her brother safe. The memory of the thousands of rats swarming a sun-drenched city is terrifying. The gameplay is a mix of stealth and brutal survival, but the impactful emotion is the star. Watching Hugo's innocence slip away while Amisha struggles with her own trauma is devastating. You're searching for an island, a cure, a hope, but the world just keeps pushing back. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was genuinely grieving for these two kids. It's a linear game, but it feels massive because of the emotional stakes. The voice acting, especially Charlotte McBurney as Amisha, is some of the best I've ever heard. It's a dark, beautiful, and punishing trek through the worst parts of humanity and the strongest parts of love. Prepare to have your heart broken into a million pieces. Number 12, Resident Evil 7. You might not think of a horror game as a journey, but Resident Evil 7 feels like a descent into hell. Entering the Baker estate in the Louisiana bayou creates the sensation of immediate, suffocating dread. You play as Ethan Winters, just a normal guy looking for his wife, and his journey from a victim to a survivor is visceral. The memory of that dinner table scene is burned into my brain forever. The gameplay brought the series back to its roots: limited ammo, clever puzzles, and a house that feels like a character itself. The impactful emotion comes from the mystery of what happened to this family. As you move from the main house to the greenhouse and then the salt mines, the environment keeps shifting, keeping you on edge. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. Each step deeper into the estate felt like moving further away from safety and sanity. The third act on the ship can feel a little bit like a different game, and the boss fights get a bit action-heavy toward the end, but the atmosphere is unbeatable. It's a journey through madness that redefined the horror genre. If you want a game that makes you feel like you've survived a nightmare, Ethan's story is the one to play. 13. Horizon Zero Dawn. I remember the first time I walked out into the open world of Horizon Zero Dawn. Seeing those towering mechanical beasts against a primitive tribal landscape creates this incredible sensation of being out of time. You play as Aloy, and her journey isn't just about survival, it's a search for her own identity. The memory of discovering the old world ruins and realizing what actually happened to humanity is one of the best sci-fi reveals ever. The gameplay is a tactical hunt, using your focus to scan for weak points and then systematically dismantling a Thunderjaw with your bow feels so rewarding. But the impactful emotion comes from Aloy's isolation. She starts as an outcast, someone who isn't even allowed to speak to her own tribe, and ends up carrying the weight of the entire world. This didn't feel like progress, it felt like distance. The further she went from her home, the more she realized that the world she knew was just a small piece of a much bigger, scarier puzzle. Sometimes the human-to-human combat feels a bit stiff compared to the machine fights, and the facial animations in this first game can be a little robotic. But the story, the mystery of Zero Dawn, it's a masterpiece. It's a journey that makes you look at nature and technology in a completely different way. 14. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Closing the gap between horror and a psychological trek, the Silent Hill 2 remake is a journey through a man's shattered mind. Entering that fog-covered town as James Sunderland creates an immediate sensation of oppressive melancholy. You aren't just looking for your dead wife, you're confronting your own guilt, manifested in some of the most disturbing creatures ever designed. The memory of the radio static getting louder in the dark still gives me chills. The gameplay in the remake is way more visceral. The combat feels heavy and desperate, like James is barely holding on. The impactful emotion comes from the symbolism in every room of the Brookhaven Hospital or the Toluca prison. You're moving deeper into the fog, and by the end, I wasn't the same person. The game forces you to look at the darkest corners of love and grief, and the different endings make you question your own moral compass. It's a heavy game, man. It's not something you play to relax, it's something you play to be changed. The sound design is a literal nightmare, and the atmosphere is so thick you can practically feel the dampness of the walls. It's a landmark journey that redefined what horror could be.
15. Hollow Knight. Don't let the cute bug aesthetic fool you. Hollow Knight is one of the most atmospheric and challenging journeys on PlayStation. Descending into the ruined kingdom of Hallownest creates this haunting sensation of exploring a fallen empire. There's no hand-holding, you just pick a direction and start walking. The memory of finding a new area like the City of Tears with the constant rain and the melancholic music is pure magic. The gameplay is tight Metroidvania perfection, but the impactful emotion comes from the environmental storytelling. You're a tiny knight in a world of giants, discovering the tragic history of the infection and the king. The road mattered more than the destination because every shortcut you opened and every charm you found felt like a personal victory against a world that wanted you dead. It's a difficult game and you will get lost, which I know can be frustrating for some, but that feeling of being lost is part of the journey. It makes the moments when you finally find a bench to rest on feel like a true sanctuary. It's a dark, beautiful, and deeply rewarding trek through a world of shadows. 16. Stray. Who knew a journey through a neon-soaked cyberpunk city would feel so profound through the eyes of a cat? Stray is a short but incredibly impactful experience. The sensation of navigating the dead city and the slums, jumping across pipes and scratching at carpets is surprisingly immersive. You start the game separated from your family, and that simple goal of getting back home creates a massive impactful emotion. The gameplay is simple, focusing on traversal and light puzzles, but the bond you form with your drone buddy, B12, is the real heart of it. Watching the companion robots try to mimic human life in a world where humans are long gone is a beautiful, quiet memory. By the end, I wasn't the same person. I was looking at the small, overlooked corners of the world with a lot more empathy. It's a shorter journey than the others on this list, but it doesn't waste a single second. It captures that feeling of being a stranger in a strange land perfectly. It's charming, a bit sad, and visually stunning. If you want a journey that feels unique and heartfelt, you have to spend a few hours as this cat.
17. Fallout 4. Stepping out of Vault 111 for the first time is a sensation I'll never forget. That blinding sunlight hitting the ruins of your old neighborhood. Fallout 4 is the ultimate journey of reconstruction. You start as a person literally out of time, looking for your son, but you end up becoming the architect of the Commonwealth. The memory of building your first working settlement in Sanctuary, turning a pile of scrap into a home, is so rewarding. The gameplay is that classic Bethesda loop of see a landmark, go explore it, and it never gets old. But the impactful emotion comes from the companions you meet along the way. Whether it's Nick Valentine or Piper, these people become your family in a world that's been burnt to a crisp.
The road mattered more than the destination because while the hunt for your son drives the plot, the stories you uncover in the Diamond City radio or the glowing sea are what actually stick with you. Sure, it's got that signature Bethesda jank, NPCs walking through walls or quest triggers being a bit moody, but the freedom is unmatched. It's a journey about what it means to start over when everything you knew is dead. It's a massive, radioactive, and deeply personal sandbox that you can live in for hundreds of hours.
18. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. To wrap this all up, we have Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and man, this game is a literal journey against time. You're part of a doomed expedition trying to stop the Paintress from wiping out everyone of a certain age. The sensation of the world is like walking through a high-end French painting that's gone horribly wrong. It's surreal, beautiful, and absolutely haunting. The gameplay is a genius evolution of turn-based combat. It's reactive, meaning you have to time your dodges and parries in real time. It makes every battle feel like a desperate struggle for survival. The impactful emotion here is the sense of finality. Everyone in your party knows they're probably on a suicide mission. By the end, I wasn't the same person because the game constantly asks you what you'd be willing to sacrifice to give the next generation a chance. The difficulty can be a real punch in the gut, and the world is so weird it might take a minute to wrap your head around the lore, but it is one of the most original journeys I've ever taken on PlayStation. It's art in motion, it's heart-wrenching, and it's the perfect way to close out this list of games that feel like a real life-changing trip.
And that is our grand tour, guys. 18 PlayStation games that don't just ask for your time, they ask for your heart. From the rainy streets of Detroit to the surreal landscapes of the Paintress, these are journeys that prove to me that games can be so much more than just playing. They can be memories. But hey, a journey is a personal thing. Which game on this list made you feel like you truly left home and came back different? Or is there a journey I missed that I absolutely need to play? Let me know in the comments because I'm always looking for my next great adventure.